If she'd watched more closely, she would have noticed Mom's hand pause and Dad's frown. My eyes went red with something between anger and pain. Dad said gravely, "Shi, your sister couldn't possibly do such a thing," Mom added. "Wanqing has always been a good, obedient child." Hearing them praise me for the first time in 2 lifetimes hit me with bitter irony. I've always been called a jinx, a troublemaker. Sniffled wounded and said, "Sister, how can you accuse me? You were the one who left with the traffickers because you hated our poverty." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Sushi's face changed. "How do you know?" she cried, and the room froze. Mom and Dad's faces went dark, realizing she'd overreached. Sushi panicked and then fainted, collapsing limp to the floor. The servants rushed her away to her room as Mom and Dad fussed. I pursed my lips. What an actress. "Wanqing, tell Mom honestly. Do you know anything about your sister?" Mom asked, suspicion finally threading her voice. I instinctively shook my head, frantic. "I don't know. I really don't, in my past life. Sushi's lies destroyed my family's trust in me and led to my tragic end. They and my brother also ended up displaced and living miserable lives because of her. In this life, I cannot repeat the same mistakes. I must protect Mom, Dad, and my brother." I could see Mom and Dad's expressions waver as they exchanged a look. That night, I quietly walked to their bedroom door and overheard them talking. "Honey, so you can also hear Wanqing's inner voice. Could it be that what she said is true? Should ye really?" Mom's voice was soft and trembling. "But she's only been back such a short time." "Let's wait and see," Dad sighed. I sneered silently as I walked away. Their favoritism toward Sushi wouldn't vanish overnight, but it didn't matter. That false trust, polished by memory, would eventually collapse. Later, I stopped by the kitchen, poured a glass of hot milk, and carried it to Sushi's room. When I opened the door, she was greedily staring at a closet full of designer clothes items. Mom and Dad had specially prepared the moment they heard she was coming back. I found it ironic. When our family became rich, Mom scolded me as vain and shameless if I wore anything over 100 yuan. But for Sushi, they would have plucked stars from the sky. The moment she saw me, Sushi's face hardened.
Ice.
She stormed over and snapped, "Sue, Wanqing, what nonsense did you spew to Mom and Dad this afternoon? When did I ever say I thought our family was poor when I was little? You didn't say it now. You said it when I was about to die in my past life." I only gave her a half smile. Back then, while she tormented me in countless ways, she admitted the truth. She couldn't stand that I had lived a good life with our parents after she left. Even though they reminded me often that I had suffered for losing a sister, Sushi still wasn't satisfied. She wanted to be the only daughter the Su family treasured. To keep her happy, Mom, Dad, and Su Shijin all stood by coldly as she bullied me, sometimes even joining in. Until I died from the abuse, I forced a smile at her now and acted as if I hadn't heard her hostility. I held out the milk. "Sister, you fainted earlier. Must be hungry by now, right? I warmed some milk for you. Have a little to tide you over." She looked at the cup and went quiet, her eyes flickering like she was plotting something. With my sharp ears, I caught faint footsteps behind me outside the door. My heart sank. Oh no. I forgot back then. She drank the milk I gave her and lied to Mom and Dad that I had poisoned it. No matter how I explained, they wouldn't listen. They even locked me in the basement for 3 days and nights, nearly starving me to death. I quickly pulled the cup back. But Sushi snatched it, shoved me down, and gulped it all in one go. Then she smirked at me. "Su Wanqing, aren't you? Something? Today I'll show you who the real daughter of the Su family is." She threw the cup to the floor, clutched her stomach, and collapsed, crying out dramatically. "Ah, my stomach hurts so much. Sister, why did you try to hurt me?" At that moment, the door creaked open. Su Shijin stood there with a grim expression, coldly watching her performance. His gaze brushed over me with something unreadable. So he was the one outside the door? "Brother, she poisoned the milk. My stomach hurts so bad." Sushi sobbed pitifully, pointing straight at me. I didn't poison anything," cried, looking up at him with red eyes, my face full of grievance. But for the first time, Su Shijin looked at me with a gentleness I had never seen before. He bent down, picked up the shards of the broken cup, studied the milk stains on them, and said coldly, "Whether Wanqing poisoned it or not isn't for you to decide. I'll send it for testing, then we'll know who's lying." I almost rolled my eyes, so he does have a brain. In my past life, when Su Shi accused me of seducing his friend, he hadn't even questioned it. He just beat me mercilessly. I thought he was brainless. A flicker of surprise flashed across Su Shi's triumphant face. She quickly clutched her stomach and said weakly, "Brother, I might have eaten something bad this afternoon, so my stomach started hurting." "Maybe I misunderstood, sister," I carefully said. "Shui, you haven't eaten anything since you fainted this afternoon. Could it be you're just hungry?" Su Shijin's cold gaze snapped to her. "You don't know if you've eaten or not, and you immediately blame your kind sister who brought you milk? Su Shi, do you have any shame left?" The noise brought Mom and Dad over. "What's going on?" Mom asked, in confusion. Su Shijin sneered, Wanqing for poisoning her. After I said I'd send the milk for testing, now she's suddenly saying it might just be hunger. Dad looked impatient. "Old are you all, still playing these childish games?" Enough, everyone disperse. Since Dad had spoken, Su Shijin and I had no choice but to leave. As I closed Su Shi's door, I saw Mom tenderly holding her. After all, she was the precious daughter who had been lost for more than a decade. If it were me, I wouldn't get the same treatment. I followed Su Shijin down the hall. After a few steps, he stopped, looked at me hesitantly for a long moment, then asked Wanqing, "What do you think of Kui Yukian, that friend of mine who often comes over? Isn't that the friend who betrayed him?" I smiled bitterly. Su Shijin was truly blind. That guy was already making eyes at his girlfriend, and he still thought they were close friends. I pretended to hesitate and stammered. "Well, I think his character isn't very good. Brother, don't ask me," Mom and Dad said. "It's not nice to talk about others." "How can you tell his character isn't good?" Su Shijin pressed. Once I joined the company, Su Shi dropped all pretenses. Every time she saw me, she looked feral, as if she wanted to tear me apart. One day at the school gate, she clutched a newly bought limited edition bag and glared at me uncertainly. I glanced at her, smirked when no one else was watching, and said, "Some people only know how to spend." No wonder Dad put the company's future in my hands. "You don't even know I asked Dad to cut your allowance to $5,000 a month." "Good luck wasting it now." Her face flushed red. She stalked forward, pointing at my nose. "You," she spat. "You've been stirring up trouble since I came back. Everything wrong with me is your fault. I'll teach you a lesson if you keep this up." She snarled and lunged, but the driver Dad sent to pick me up stepped between us. "Miss Su, calm down," he said flatly. She cursed him like a mad dog. "Who do you think you are? How dare you stop me? Just wait, and you Su Wanqing, I won't let you off." After I got in the car, the driver muttered, "Miss, second miss, has a temper." I cut him off gently. "Uncle Wang, don't tell Dad about petty things like this. I don't want him worrying. If Dad intervened, who knew how Su Shi would retaliate next?" I opened my phone to check collaboration documents. A few days later, decent photos of me appeared on the campus network. Badly photoshopped, but scandalous enough. Su Shi led the mocking online, her comments vicious. I calmly collected evidence and called the police. She panicked and tried to snatch my phone. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Calling the police." I said, "Don't call the police." Her face drained of color. "Why call the police over this? It's not like you'll lose anything. Why are you so sensitive?" I looked at her, amused. "You're the one being accused. Why are you so nervous? Could you be the one posting the rumors?" Her eyes darted around. She didn't admit it. I hit the call. "Fine. Let the police investigate." When she realized I really had called, she scrambled for a way out. "Wait, okay, I did it, but it was only to teach you a lesson." Perfect, exactly what I needed her to say. I backhanded her. "Su Shi, are you insane? Do you think you can mess with me? You're messing with the Su family's name. I'm a daughter of this family. If anything happens to me, it affects everyone." She screamed and lunged, and I fought back without holding back. I'd wanted to do this for a long time. The chaos finally ended when Mom and Dad arrived, having been called by the school. Both of their faces were dark with anger. After I explained what happened, Sushi cried and denied everything, insisting I had framed her. Mom's eyes turned red with disappointment as she looked at her. Shi-yi, how could you do this? Dad slapped her harder than I had. Sushi-yi, what did your sister say that was wrong? You even spread indecent rumors about your own sister. You've let me down completely. From now on, stay home. Don't go anywhere. I won't tolerate you shaming me outside. Holding her cheek, Sushi screamed, You're biased. You always take her side. She glared at me with such venom that it was obvious if Mom and Dad weren't standing there, she would have attacked me. This child, how did she turn out like this? Mom finally broke down in tears. I walked over, hugged her gently, and comforted her softly, compared to Sushi-yi, who was still shouting insults. I looked like the well-behaved daughter, but being grounded didn't stop her. She secretly stole one of Mom's cards and started frequenting entertainment venues. On my phone, I looked at a photo of her, clinging to a bearded man, and smiled faintly. I called the bar owner, that diseased male escort I mentioned before, send him to my dear sister, under my quiet arrangements. Sushi-yi soon got involved with a handsome but infected man. After a month of reckless partying, our family finally sat together for breakfast. Sushi looked drained, her tongue flicking against her mouth. I feigned concern. Shi-yi, what's wrong with your mouth? Sushijin, sharpened, forced her to open it. What is this? He exclaimed. Her mouth was covered in white cauliflower-shaped ulcers. Mom and Dad jumped to their feet in panic. Hospital. We're going now. At first she resisted, but Dad dragged her there. The results came back quickly. She had contracted genital warts. And when Dad pressed her for details, she tried to explain but suddenly turned green and began retching. I gagged too, out of disgust. But unlike me, her nausea was real. She was pregnant. Dad's eyes rolled back in shock, and he fainted on the spot. With Dad unconscious, Sushijin and I had to temporarily manage the company. Being vengeful and remembering my inner voice about his future downfall at Sushiji's hands, he quickly shipped her off to a so-called sanatorium, despite her being diseased and pregnant. When Dad woke, his fury left him paralyzed. But it was too late. He had no choice but to hand over the company to the two of us. The problem was, he forgot what kind of person his son really was. Sushijin had little talent for business-only diligence, and Dad's guidance kept him afloat. Now, with Dad incapacitated and distracted by his new girlfriend, most of the company's affairs fell into my hands. I didn't think it unfair. On the contrary, while pretending to support my brother, I quietly took over and transferred important projects into my own company. From the day of my rebirth, I had been building a company in secret. And from the day I entered the Su family's business, I had been siphoning away assets. Now the opportunity was greater than ever. Sushijin's laziness and Dad's helplessness gave me the perfect opening. From the beginning, my goal was never only Sushi. I remembered to well in my past life. After she returned, Mom and Dad not only stood by, but also joined in tormenting me. I became the family's punching bag. Without their indulgence, Sushi would never have gone so far. They were all guilty of my death. Even Sushijin, who claimed he was going abroad to find a famous doctor for Dad, was really vacationing with his new girlfriend. By the time he returned, Su Corporation's stock had collapsed, and I had already hollowed out the company. He burst into my office, furious. Su Wanching, what have you done? I blinked innocently. Brother, what are you talking about? I only followed Dad's instructions. Inside, I laughed. Brother, dear Dad left you to take the blame? Don't point your finger at me, you Shijin. Looked at me, half persuaded. He sifted through some recent company financials, and after finding the evidence I'd planted, finally believed my story. Supposedly, Dad had evaded taxes and, to avoid punishment, had handed the company over, letting Su Shijin take the fall and go to jail. Convinced, Su Shijin rushed home and confronted his paralyzed father. "Dad, why would you do this to me? Why would you hurt me?" he demanded. Dad, still only able to move one hand, slapped Su Shijin. Enraged, Su Shijin shoved him back. Dad's head struck the bedpost, and he went completely still. Panic seized Su Shijin. Thought he'd killed his father. He bolted from the house and sped to the airport, but on the highway his car collided head-on with a large truck. He died instantly. When I visited Su Shiyi at the sanatorium, she smelled awful and was barely coherent. The moment she saw me, though, her feral mask returned, and I couldn't help but smile. "Sister, how are you holding up in here?" I asked lightly. "Oh, I forgot. You talked so much those first 2 days they had to cut half your tongue out." Su Shiyi had been reborn too, just at a different time. Once she realized what was happening in the sanatorium, she screamed that I was a reborn monster. Since I'd invested in the sanatorium, I got the news fast and handled it the way I wanted. I sat across from her, my face bright with success. "By the way, your brother's funeral already happened," I said conversationally. "Funny coincidence, he got into a car accident not long after leaving home. He was burned so badly the medical examiner struggled to identify him. I just put a lump of dog food in the urn as a keepsake." Her eyes widened. I went on chillingly calm. "That shove he gave Dad didn't kill him, but it caused a severe head injury and shock. Now he's in a vegetative state. I arranged a care hospital that costs 500 yuan a month. Dad's alive, but not really living." Su Shihi strained at the bars, trying to reach me, but she could never get close enough. "Oh, and Mom," I added, smiling. "She's been through so much that she's always in a daze. I sent her to the mental hospital next door. I own shares there, so you can rest assured." I stood, dusted my sleeve as if brushing off the air, and smiled wider. "I'll take care of you all, Mom, Dad," and you'd very clearly and properly. As Sushi screamed and struggled, I laughed softly and walked away, pleased. Life still goes on. I wondered how much longer my dear family would last. I waved my hands nervously. No, I was just saying it casually. I can't possibly say that in my past life. Koyuki-an not only betrayed brother, but also teamed up with sister to slander him publicly. Brother is so pitiful. He died without ever knowing the rumors about his health were spread by his own precious sister. Shush. Shigen's face turned dark. Before he could ask more, I quickly slipped away. The next day at the dining table, the air was tense. Except for Mom occasionally placing food on Sushi's plate. Everyone else seemed lost in thought. Finally, Sushi broke the silence. Dad, Mom, when will you officially announce that I've been found? She smiled sweetly. Our Su family isn't small anymore. Since I'm the daughter of the Su family, we should let outsiders know there's a second young miss, right? Her words made me freeze. In my past life, framed by her, I was locked in the basement without food or water. On the verge of hallucination from hunger, I could still hear laughter outside. At that time, Mom, Dad, and Su, Sheijan held a grand banquet to celebrate her return, announcing to the world that she was their little princess. Supported by the whole family, she gained endless prestige and emboldened. Tormented me even more. Even though I've been reborn, just the thought of that past torment made me tremble with fear, even gag. Covering my mouth, I dry heaved a few times, instantly drawing everyone's eyes at the table. My mind raced. It's over. She's going to spread rumors about my private life again. But I just have a stomach issue. Should I bring down my medical records to prove it to Mom and Dad? Sister, what's wrong? Could it be? Sushi feigned surprise, covering her mouth, her eyes flicking toward my stomach. Could it be that you're pregnant? She gave me a half smile. Sister always wanted to fall in love early. Have you already gone through dozens of boyfriends? Tell me, is your current boyfriend that black guy you liked most when you were little? Dad's face darkened. Shi, don't talk nonsense. I sneered inwardly. My eyes, watery from retching, made me look pitiful. I'm furious she really is talking nonsense. But how do I stop Mom and Dad from throwing a welcome party for her? In my past life, she used the banquet to cozy up to a rival company's son. To please him, She even stole my brother's hard-earned proposal, getting him sued and nearly ruining the company. Our family already lost one key project when she came back. If something happens to brother too, how will we survive? Su Shijin's face went rigid. I disagree. He suddenly stood, his tone harsh. She doesn't even understand basic manners. She doesn't act like a proper young lady at all. Let her learn first otherwise. Announcing her as the Su family's daughter will only bring shame. But Mom looked hesitant, her eyes soft with pity as she glanced at Su Shiyi as if wanting to defend her. Great. This way, she won't get the chance to meet that man, or steal Mom's beloved jewelry to please his mother. Mom's expression shifted, and she agreed. Shijin is right. Girls should mind their manners and upbringing. The smile on Su Shi's face froze. A flash of malice passed through her eyes. Hump! She shoved back her chair. What rules? Acting like the Qing dynasty hasn't ended? Clearly, you don't really want me back here. Without another glance, Su Shi stormed out of the dining room. Dad, who cared most about appearances and loved being praised by his children, sat there looking darker and darker. Later, Su Shi kept trying to persuade them, still insisting on a grand welcome party. But with Mom and Su Shijin firmly against it, and Dad increasingly feeling this daughter was unlucky and disobedient. The party never happened. Even so, Su Shiyu was still the Su family's daughter. Since she was back, she had to keep studying. Dad donated a whole building just to get her into the same university as me, disguising her identity as my distant cousin. He even gave her a supplementary credit card for shopping and pocket money. But Su Shiyi was still Su Shi greedy, selfish, entitled. No matter what she got, it was never enough. On the way to school, she sat in the back seat of the luxury car, cursing nonstop. I'm the real daughter. Is it so hard to say that? What distant cousin nonsense? I'm biological. That old fool must be losing his mind. She shook the card in her hand. Only 20,000 yuan limit? Stingy? What can you even buy with that? I closed my book gently and said, Shui, Dad already treats you very well. That's more than enough to buy plenty of things, after all. I still had to work part-time to cover my own expenses. None of your business. She snapped, glaring at me. Hypocrite. Of course, you hope I suffer. Maybe that old fool gives you even more money. From the corner of my eye, I saw the driver frown. He was Dad's trusted man, someone who could speak freely in front of him. Both Su Shijin and I were always polite to him. I knew as soon as we stepped out of the car, Su Shi's words would reach Dad word for word. In the days that followed, she spent recklessly with the card Dad gave her designer bags. Limited edition sneakers like she was making up for all the years she'd missed out. Meanwhile, I kept my grades at the top, and from time to time, offered Mom and Dad investment suggestions that helped Dad earn huge profits. My obedience and good sense only made her behavior look worse. And every time Dad looked at her, his frown deepened. One evening after dinner, Dad stopped us as we were leaving. I saw your final exam results. They're terrible. Look at your sister, she's always top of her department, winning scholarships and awards one after another. His voice carried heavy reproach. Same parents, yet the difference is so great. Tears filled Sushi's eyes instantly. Dad, I know I didn't do well, but it's because I never had proper education growing up. She glanced at me as she sobbed. Unlike sister, who enjoyed the best resources since childhood, enough. Dad cut her off sharply. You know very well how much allowance your adoptive parents gave you every month. Don't play the victim in front of me. She shouldn't have mentioned the past. The moment she did, Dad's face darkened. His hand slammed on the table. Don't take your father for a fool. I had someone look into it. You were sold to a family, but they weren't poor. If they hadn't gone bankrupt within 2 months, and if you hadn't tricked them out of their last bit of savings, they wouldn't have thrown themselves into the river. Even if you weren't with us these past years, how could you live so selfishly? Sometimes, when words fail, all you can do is laugh. To outsiders, the Su family might look generous and tolerant. But in truth, they were all selfish. They only raised their voices when their own interests were threatened. Sushi was just like the rest of them, only worse. Her face went pale for a moment, still trying to protest. Mom and Sue. Shaejin said nothing. I spoke up instead. Dad, she just came back. Maybe she's not used to things yet. Give her some time. Dad frowned. Wanching, you don't need to defend her. If she can't prove her worth, she'll stay a distant cousin, he added sharply. Our Sue family doesn't have room for idlers. Sushi was stunned. She'd assumed that returning to the family would mean luxury and endless doting. She never expected her status as a Sue daughter might be at risk, because Sue Shii kept underperforming and I behaved like the dutiful daughter. With Sue Shijin backing me and Dad seeing my project proposals, he eventually called me into his study. Wanching, you have a real talent for business. How about coming to work at the company? Dad said, smiling with genuine approval. I wasn't surprised, but I acted grateful. Thank you, Dad. I'll work hard. The day my sister was found, my parents and brother were overjoyed, their faces glowing with excitement, but in my heart I was thinking, great, my sister is finally back. Too bad Dad's project is about to get stolen by someone. Should I remind him now? Mom looked at my sister with tears in her eyes, already taking off the family heirloom jade bracelet worth tens of millions to give her. Sigh. Once Mom hands it over, it's gone. Soon, my sister will pretend to accidentally drop it and break it just to test Mom's love for her. What a waste of such fine jade. My brother was so thrilled he was about to lift my sister up. I tilted my head at him, thinking, poor big brother. Right now, his girlfriend is sitting on his best friend's lap. Tonight, when she tells him she's pregnant and makes him raise another man's child, I wonder if he'll still be this happy. Just then, Dad's phone rang. I kept my eyes on my sister, pretending not to notice the frozen looks on my parents' and brother's faces. Dad hesitated before answering. A moment later, his expression changed completely. What? Okay, I understand. Putting the phone down, the joy from my sister Sue, she's return instantly turned into something else. Even Mom's voice trembled. Honey, what happened? Dad glanced at me, then said stiffly, we just got word that the company's biggest project of the year was snatched by a competitor. There's probably no room left to negotiate. I shook my head in sympathy. Dad and brother worked half a year on this project, barely coming home. Now all that effort is wasted. Worse, brother was mocked for months by the competitor's son over this same project. How embarrassing. Both their eyes landed on me. Mom's hand froze on the bracelet she was about to remove, while I sat quietly to the side. Mom didn't know whether to take it off anymore. At that moment, Shi noticed and quickly yanked the jade bracelet off Mom's wrist, ignoring the pain on Mom's face. Mom, are you giving this to me? She asked sweetly, dangling the bracelet with 2 fingers before hugging Mom. You always said when I was little you'd save all the best things for me. Mom, you're the best. She didn't notice the sudden tension in Mom's eyes. She was about to slip it on when the unexpected happened. The bracelet slipped from her hand and smashed on the ground into pieces. Mom's face twitched uncontrollably. Oh, Mom. Shuyi pouted dramatically. My hand slipped. I didn't mean to break it. You won't blame me, right? Her lips formed a pitiful smile, but her eyes flashed with triumph. Certain that her parents' love would outweigh any jade bracelet. But when she looked up, she found Mom, Dad, and my brother, Su Shijin, staring at her in shock. Damn it. Shijin's face turned pale. He rushed off, phone in hand, clearly calling his girlfriend. Dad, Mom, are you mad? Shiwi really didn't mean it. She saw their expressions shift and her eyes immediately welled with tears. Here we go again, I thought. She's about to play the victim, talk about how miserable her life was after being abducted. Poor Mom and Dad, they'll hand her money out of pity, not realizing she'll spend it all on male escorts. Sure enough, tears streamed down her cheeks. She whimpered about how badly she missed them, how she was beaten, covered in scars. Locked in a dog cage, fed moldy food, almost sold into a scam compound. Dad, Mom, I'm so happy to see you again. I picked at my nails lazily. Those scars she's about to show? Self-inflicted. Just for sympathy, Mom grabbed Shay's wrist, voice trembling as she saw the scabbed wounds. Shi-Yi, did they really do this to you? Shu-Yi flinched, her eyes shifting, but nodded anyway. Yes. They always beat me, said I was worthless, hard to sell. She hugged Mom again. I'm so glad I'm back. I missed you so much. I pursed my lips. Her adoptive parents treated her better than their own child, giving her a big allowance every month. And yet she slanders them. Disgusting. She wasted all that money chasing celebrities. Mom and Dad exchanged grim looks. Dad patted Mom's hand and stood up. I'm going to make a call to the office. I watched him leave, casually fixing my hair to hide the sneer tugging at my lips. I knew he wasn't calling the office. He was already having someone dig into what really happened to Shi-Yi all these years. Dad had always been suspicious. After overhearing so many of my private thoughts, how could he still trust Shi-Yi like before? Once he left the room, Shi-Yi turned her act up another notch, wailing about having no food or warm clothes, claiming she'd been forced to work non-stop by her new family. Mom, however, didn't react as hysterically as she once would have. She simply patted Sushi's back with a gentle, automatic comfort. I watched without expression. In my past life, I used to play with Sushui when we were kids. One day I ran out to buy ice cream, and by the time I came back, she was gone taken by someone who looked rich. I ran after them, but couldn't catch up. When Mom, Dad, and my brother learned what happened, they blamed me. I felt like a sinner, and for 13 years I endured their tormental living in constant fear, treated worse than an animal. Then, when I turned 20, my sister was found and returned, and the family immediately loved her again. My guilt over not protecting her eased. But it didn't last. Sushi looked at me and pointed, accusing. She sold me to traffickers. She said I was extra in the family. The house flipped. They believed her, everyone who doted on her since she was small and turned on me. They slapped me, forced me to kneel, and made me kowtow to her, demanding I confess. After that, my life only got worse. I was tortured until I died, and only then did Sushi smugly confess the truth. She'd left because she didn't want a hard life. Went with traffickers to get rich parents, and only returned because she'd seen her real family become wealthy in the papers. She laughed, that otherwise I would have kept the good life to myself. I never imagined she could be so calculating and cruel. I died full of hatred, then woke up, reborn in the year she returned. I learned I could control my inner voice and decide who could hear it. Watching Sushi nestle into Mom's arms with that smug little smile, I felt a small urge to smile back. This time, I wanted to see how long Mom, Dad, and Su Shijin would keep loving her after they saw who she really was. When Dad slammed the door open with a fierce look, he saw Sushi hysterically crying while Mom patted her back. I kept my head down. His expression told me he'd already started investigating what really happened to her while she was gone. Next, she'll try to pin her abduction on me to win the family's pity, I thought. And of course, she didn't disappoint. The moment Dad walked in, she began to sob, claiming I'd pushed her toward the bad men when we were little, saying I wanted her gone. She looked up with reddened eyes and whispered, "Is that true?"